Well, I had an experience one Christmas. My mom got me a book, The Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
yeah.
Great theological masterpieces we discussed.
Wait, is that Tom Hanks?
In the movie.
In the movie.
In the movie, yeah. Sorry, I don't read. As we know, we don't read the books. We just watch the movies. Yeah. Anyway, yes.
No,
so Da Vinci Code,
provocative story about Jesus having supposedly a bloodline.
Right.
But anyway,
I will truth.
I will say that one thing that Dan Brown does. I will say that one thing that Dan Brown does is he does a good job, because I've read a few other of his books. His literature is saturated with information and history, and I decided for whatever reason to start reading that book that Christmas Day, and it just, my mind, I have been blessed with this imagination, and it just exploded that day. I learned how good I was at being able to create a setting. I could see these characters. Things were vivid. The details of some of the descriptions and stuff like that. It opened me up to this world of just like wonder and interest, and I was hooked. And I wanted more of that.
Do you know why? Like, why that book? Like, why that book over all the other hundreds of books that have been placed before you?
Yeah, and to be fair, there were moments younger where I would actually pick up the book report book and read a bit. And there was again those flares, but it never clicked. It wasn't my time. But when it came to me finally accepting that and really like stepping into, wow, like I get this.
Right.
I think that that's part, and another big thing I like to stress when I talk with the youth is that is who I am. That's what I was created to be. I believe that's part of me, and that was me experiencing the fullness of what God created me to be. Yeah. And it's life, and it feels so good, and it's just right.
That's why the arts speak to you, because there's a creativity or creative freedom in, like you said, like I read books, and I don't even read fiction books. I only read, like nonfiction, because I'm a man of facts, and so, but in all seriousness, I read I love like history books. I don't have the same imagination you do. Like, like I can read a fiction book and I'll just be like, oh, like Joe's such an annoying character. Next page, and you'll be like, oh man, Joe, let me give Joe a backstory. Like you dive into it. So that's interesting.
Well, and not only that, but it has an effect on other aspects of my life. Like specifically, I read books and I watch movies, and I feel like I can see the hand of God in that.
Sure, yeah.
I feel like I can see, the blessing of God in, from the creators that influence the creators.
Yeah.
I feel like God is speaking to everyone, and He's working through everything. And in my experience, I can see the details of that, where maybe even the atheistic creator didn't or doesn't.
Right.
But there's every soul is calling for their creator. I feel there's a longing there.
Sure.
Well, there's something to be said about God created this universe. God created the like we did a podcast on the moral law, right? And one of the things that apologists will argue is that everyone has access to God's moral law, right? They just don't understand where it's coming from. And then because of that, that's how easy it is to pervert it, because they're not recognizing where it's coming from. But it kind of goes back to that saying, all truth is God's truth, right? Like there is a truth, and if you hit the truth, it came from God. All good things come from God, right? So where an atheist may not ascribe a good thing to God, we know that good thing came from God. Right. So I think there's something to be said there. Just people will hit on that vein, and then what they'll do is they'll assume it's because they were talented. They'll assume that it's because they were brilliant.
Right.
But in reality, they're striking true with something about who God is and how God created the universe.
Right. It's that philosophical argument for the existence of God, that like, why is something beautiful?
Yeah.
Right. And like he recognizes the beauty even in the Da Vinci Code. Not saying I'm not knocking the book, but I'm saying like there's a certain sense of like you can see God's hand apparent, especially in the arts, I would say. But in all things, you see where God is moving and working, especially from a creative creator. You know what I mean? Like this, we have creativity because we are made in the image of God. So not to cut you off, but continue, man. Yeah.